South African fuel brand Sasol has launched a digital tipping and payment system called Tipped. This is for petrol attendants. The system will make it easier for customers to tip petrol attendants straight from their smartphones. But how exactly will it work? Well, we're joined by Sasol Energy Marketing and Sales Vice President Zanele Hadebe to take us through the granular details. Good evening, Zanele. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. So finally, a system is coming that will allow customers who don't have cash on hand but would love to tip the petrol attendants to do so. Talk us through the system and how it came about.
So the system basically came about due to really wanting to show gratitude. We've got a big customer service centricity model that we follow, and that had been rolled out for the past 2 years essentially. And in order for us to really start to look at behavior of when good service is delivered, how can we give a seamless experience when customers who visit any of our retail sites to be able to tip without having to basically utilize cash. So that seemed to be a constant reoccurrence of, I don't have cash, I'd like to tip, but I can't. And we started working with this organization that's owned by, a young lady of working on this digital wallet. And we started piloting it. And we've taken it live. And now by visiting any of our stations, you can tip digitally by just tapping a QR code.
Now, talk us through that specific one. One would not need to download any app, as you say, it would just be the scanning of that QR code.
Correct. So basically, it's a QR code that you would find on a petrol attendants or any of the forecourt staff within that particular forecourt. And essentially, all you do is scan that QR code. The system basically runs off a MasterPass payment rail, which supports basically most of your mobile banking apps. And from there, it basically also looks at utilizing Snapper Scan, Zapper. You can use Telkom Pay or even Voda Pay. So essentially, once you scan, already picks up and you're able to literally make a payment by literally putting in, this is what is the tip that I'd like to put in. Payment is made. The attendee gets that payment, which goes into basically a digital wallet, as they have a certain app that they utilize, where each of them has a specific identity number that allocates them. And they're able to take that money, they can transfer it to their bank account, or they can actually use it at a variety of retailers, essentially.
On the petrol attendant side, what will be required of them? For instance, is there any fee they must pay, or will a portion of the tip be deducted to maybe retain their identity on the system, if you will?
Absolutely no fee whatsoever, no cost to anybody. It really is they get the full tip. It doesn't go else, so it goes directly to them. So that's the beauty of it. And they decide how they would like to utilize their tip, whether they move it to their bank account or whether they'd like to go to a Checkers or a fast food place or any other retailer that they'd like to go to, a clothing store, to make use of it. And those are all selected and already set up on that particular digital wallet that they have access to.
All right, quite wonderful. But would you say that this contributes immensely to the broader program to migrate to a more cashless society, which is actually quite safer?
I think that's the first thing, it makes it safe for clients. I mean, I know I myself, when I just kind of fumble around in the car and I don't have cash or anything, and I just want to say thank you to someone by showing them some sort of gratitude, it eliminates that, number one. Number two, in terms of, yes, crime is a serious reality, and ensuring that customers feel comfortable enough to say, I can even scan just by tapping that QR code and actually just show my gratitude for the service I've received. I think thirdly, for the safety of our petrol attendants as well, or any of our forecourt staff, it's also a safety element for them not having to walk around with large quantities of cash on them that is actually being given to them as a tip for themselves. And I think in the world and society that we live in today, where, there's a preference to make digital payments, as we see the evolution of that, it ties in. Yes, we'll still have customers who have a preference to pay by cash or tip by cash. That is perfectly fine. But I think we also wanted to align with the way of society in this day and age.
Then, Zanele, to the etiquette around this new system, if you will. We all appreciate that many are struggling to make ends meet. So when some come to the filling station, tipping might genuinely be impossible for them. Is there perhaps a very subtle manner in which this option to tip will be introduced to customers so they don't feel as though they're being pressured in this economy to actually tip?
Absolutely. And I think the key thing in terms of the messaging that we have our sites is simply, if you really appreciate the service that you've been given and you would like to tip and don't have cash, there is an alternative. I think that's the first and most critical thing. There's an oath that also all of our attendants and any of our forecourt staff have to take that says, it's not about you asking, you never ask for a tip. In the same way that if I go to a restaurant, if I go out with my child and there's a childminder at a particular play yard that looks up them, there's nothing that says I must. It's a matter of I, as an individual, really appreciate the service I've been given. I would like to show my gratitude for that. And that's essentially how we have positioned it and how each of our attendees and our frontline staff have really taken it to heart. And we can even see it when we looked at our pilot results. It actually showed, those who really did have quite high tips when we look at from compliments and so forth, it actually aligned.
No, it most certainly remains a very great, innovative way to thank petrol attendants for excellent service that we continue to experience. Zanele, thank you very much for joining us on the program. That's Sasol Energy Marketing and Sales Vice President Zanele Hadebe speaking to us.